Well, good day and welcome again to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. I hope everyone's doing well today. It's January the 20th, and as always, I am happy to see you here and hope that you find this information useful. Now, if you are someone who is starting to wonder if there might be something to this, I always encourage you to check out the links that I provided in the description portion of these videos. So you can educate yourself better, you can get to know this information better, and then you can see if there's any truth to it for yourself. Whether it's 1% or 100%, that's up to you. And then you can decide what you want to do with it, really, is what it amounts to. So hopefully you'll take advantage of it. There are a lot of different links that I put in there, but I do recommend checking out the Share International link first because you can get more information in one spot there than you can anywhere else. All right, now, I have a comment I want to address in this video, and let me get to it. All right. This comes from Edith D. Leedith. I am concerned about what I am seeing with American politics. Me too. I understand completely what you're saying. Do you have any thoughts about how we are going to get through this time? My friends say it's because we are in the end of days, but I try not to think that this is it. All right. Thank you, Edith, for your question. All right. How are we going to get through this? In terms of politics, how we're going to get through this is the people are going to have to realize that their politicians don't have their best interest at heart, And I think we're starting to wake up to that fact. It's been kind of slow and painful to realize, but we have to realize that our governments of the world aren't going to do it. It's going to be the people. Maitreya and Ben's Master talks about the people power that will start to awaken within groups and countries and so forth. And eventually that power will be so strong that there won't be a government anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter how authoritarian they are, how corrupt they are, how much they use fear to keep their agenda in place. They won't be able to withstand the power of the people. And it's coming, And the proof is really if you look at over the past few years, how much more and more and more people are becoming aware of the problems, are speaking out about the problems, are marching in groups to solve the problems, whether it's the need for justice, whether that's racial or economic, the need for peace, or the need to save our environment. The people are coming together to speak out about it. Now, the governments of the world are kind of ignoring it. And, one of the most disgusting displays of that was when 11 or 15 million people marched just in this country against the war in Iraq 20 or so years ago, whenever it was. And the then Vice President, Dick Cheney, referred to them as a focus group. 11 million people as a focus group. Yeah. No, the people are waking up to the problems of the world. They're waking up to the fact that war shouldn't be going on, But anyway, now how are we going to get out of our problems as, that are mounting daily? The only way to do that is to institute the principle of sharing, to take Maitreya's suggestion and share the resources of the world. That will bring about goodwill amongst the nations, and then we can solve the problems that we are facing. And it's going to have to be every country working together in order to do that. Now, where does this all fit into this information? Well, the end of days that people like to talk about, the end times, is of course coming from the religious texts of Revelation. Hindus don't really have that their book of Revelation talking about the end times. So they don't have those kind of hang-ups like the fundamentalist Christian would have. But they're misreading their own texts. And perception is everything. So if you read anything, whether it's, let's just say about Revelation, right? If you're reading about the book of, if you're reading the book of Revelation with the eyes of fear, well, then of course it's going to scare the living bejesus out of you. You won't be able to sleep at night. You'll be seeing everything that you think that you're seeing is in relation to the end of times, or the end of days, or the end times as you're thinking that Revelation is talking about. and then kind of forcing your view and narrative into that. So people look at are trying to find the Antichrist, and they see that they see somebody that they don't agree with politically, and they must be the Antichrist or whatever. Or they see Maitreya, because Maitreya is talking about peace and justice. They think, oh my God, that's what the Antichrist is going to do. He's going to promise peace and so forth. Maitreya is not promising peace, never has. He's just saying that peace is guaranteed only if the principle of sharing is instituted by humanity. We have to do it. Maitreya is not coming to bring peace. He's coming to show us that peace is possible if we see ourselves as one family. We see ourselves as one, which is true, right? Now, getting back to the end of days and so forth, it's not the end of the end. It's the end of a time and the beginning of a new time. And it's based on the truth that everything in life is energy. And the scientific community, and I know I'm kind of talking all over the place, but the scientific community is becoming more and more aware of the truth that everything is energy. And it's going to change science. It's going to change the way we view life. It's going to change the way we view ourselves and so forth. But, everything in life is energy. There's nothing but energy in the universe. But the energy is not dead. It's alive. Now, how does it relate to what you talked about? Well, we are, as a humanity, are unconscious of those energies. And those energies, humanity unconsciously uses to build the civilization of the time. Over the last 2,000 years, we use this energy of Pisces to create the civilization of the last 2,000 years. Now, if we could go back to when Jesus was just a disciple in Palestine, he was the world teacher and ushered in that age of Pisces. It's written within the text symbolically of the New Testament, the symbol of the fish, which was the age-old symbol of Pisces. The people of the time knew about that being a symbol. They looked to the stars for direction. They looked for the stars for spiritual meaning and so forth. And the constellation of Pisces, they saw the fish. I don't see the fish in the shape of the star, the pattern of those stars, just as I don't see a water carrier in the pattern of Aquarius, but they did. And that's why the symbol of the fish is all throughout the New Testament. Was kind of a way of telling people that Jesus was the world teacher for the Piscean age. Now, the people of the time of Jesus, the people that Jesus spoke to, had a very herd mentality. They didn't see life as an individual would see life today. And the people of that time that could think for themselves, relatively speaking to the people, to the average person, dominated those people and held them in fear and exploited them and became very rich and powerful because of the difference between the fact that they could so-called think for themselves and the other people couldn't. Now, over the last 2,000 years, and it's been a painful process, more and more of us to where pretty much everybody in humanity see themselves totally as individual. Now, that's good and it's bad, but we see ourselves now as individuals at the expense of other people's individuality. We follow other people's individuality and relinquish our own individuality in order to do that, in a large extent. Do we think for ourselves truly? No, that's going to take some time for humanity to truly think for themselves and be a totally unique individual as what it means to be a divine soul. But right now, relatively speaking to 2,000 years ago, yes, we as a humanity think for ourselves. Way better than we did 2,000 years ago. Now, the problem is that we built structures that support that individuality. It created competition, greed, corruption, whether it's religious, economic, or as what you're seeing the problem is politically, right? It's all based on the individual, which is not entirely true. We're individual, but we're also a part of a unified oneness called the universe. Now, Jesus, just as the Buddha, talked about oneness, and it always baffles me that Christians get so turned up about this term oneness and how they think it's evil. That Jesus talked about it. What you sow shall you reap. You're talking about the law of cause and effect, a law that would not exist in a universe that's totally separate. If you harm someone else, it comes back to you as harm. Jesus said, those who live by the sword shall what? Die by the sword. Talked about it all the time. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It is another way of expressing oneness. Love one another, feed my sheep, give to the poor. Those are preliminary teachings about teaching us that we are actually one, But the problem is that those energies unconsciously being used by humanity over the last 2,000 years have given us this very powerful, potent individual at the expense of other individuals. So the structures, political, economic, and social structures, and the other structures that are in place support that. Now they're crumbling. They're falling apart. There's nothing that anybody can do. And as time goes on, it's only going to get worse because the new energies are much different than the old energies. They're truer to who we really are as oneness, the unity, cooperation, synthesis, sharing, those buzzwords. They're just words to us now. We really don't understand what the true meaning of those words are, but in time, we will start to live more to truly who we are as one. But the structures have to support that. So if we don't build these structures, which the foundation of it will be the principle of sharing, there's no other way, well, then we're going to go right off that cliff because we won't have any structures left. And we have the ability to kill ourselves thousands of times over with all the nuclear weapons that we have, which was built on greed and competition of the past and so forth. So we're living in a very tumultuous time because of the transition of it. But it's painful, but yet, the way out politically is humanity must start to realize that we have a voice, that we are ahead of our politicians. Ben's Master talks about it many times in his articles, how far ahead humanity is from, and people are from the politicians of the world. So we can't look to them to help us. They're too gridlocked. They're too corrupt. They're too into it for themselves. They're too short-sighted. Whatever you want to say, you're probably right if you criticized the politicians of the world. They're on both sides. It's not just the Republicans and it's not just the Democrats. They are both entrenched in ideology and corruption, but humanity is moving past it. The problem is that we don't realize how powerful we really are. But eventually, according to Ben's Master, under the being galvanized by humanity, by Maitreya, Maitreya will be the voice for the people. He will speak what we all want, which is peace, which is a life, which is justice, equality, the need to be ourselves, those kind of things, the need to have a life, the need to have an environment that's sustainable and so forth. We all really want that. We might not think it, but we all really want that. And he will speak for us in that way. He'll be our representative, but he'll galvanize humanity for change. And the one thing that I find interesting is when people are critical of what I talk about on this channel, one of the things that they like to use is, well, since Benjamin Creme died, people have lost interest in this story. It's not true. People might have lost interest in Share International or Benjamin Creme, but if you look at over the past 10 years, how many more people every year are marching for peace, for justice, for racial justice, for equality, for environment, for the environment. So it's getting stronger. They don't even know that Maitreya is in the world yet, and yet the voice of the people is starting to increase, more and more and more. This is because we're moving into this new time. The people don't know what's next. They're uncertain of the new time. They're uncertain of where to go, right? But they know that what we're doing isn't working. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what it amounts to. So hopefully that helps. Now, I do want to read an article from Benjamin Creme. I want to leave us with this. It's entitled Preparing the Future. And I always encourage you to check out the Share International site. And if you do go, check out reading one of Benjamin Creme's Master's articles. They're quite extraordinary. And there you can actually read it for yourself. You can internalize these words better than you can just by me hearing it. But in the meantime, I want to read this to you. Hopefully it'll add some value to you, your life and so forth, and give you hope. Towards the end of an age and the beginning of a new cosmic cycle, everything begins to fall apart. The old and the tried ways of living no longer work or meet the needs of an advancing humanity. Certainty gives way to uncertainty. The known has lost its power to convince, and men feel bewildered, lost, and filled with fear. Thus it is today as we stand baffled in this transitional phase between the old age of Pisces and the new age and the new Aquarian dispensation. The Aquarian age will last approximately 2,350 years and will bring much benefit to men as its energies mount in potency over the centuries. However, at present, the old ways of Pisces, outworn but not as yet outgrown, still hold sway and determine the thoughts and actions of the majority of men. This being so, countless millions are held enthralled by the actions of those leaders whose nations are powerful and dominate the present time. Thus is this a time of upheaval and stress, disharmony and strife. That this troubled time will not last much longer, you may be assured. Already the signs of change are evident to us, your elder brothers. We see clearly the outlines of conditions altogether different from those that now prevail. We see a world at peace, a world where justice reigns, where freedom adorns the lives of men and women everywhere. We know that the present ills are transient and passing, that the time is not far off for the light of the new dawn to illumine men's lives and challenge them to action. We know also that men in their hearts are ready and longing for change, and will rise to the challenge with eagerness, and will they await only inspiration and guidance. The inspiration and guidance Maitreya is eager to bestow in full measure and more as he awaits the appointed hour which by karmic law allows him to proceed. Then will the great Lord enter openly the domain of men. Then he will challenge the assumptions of the men of power and wealth. Maitreya will speak for the millions without a voice, for the destitute and hungry who live in anguish from day to day, for those who languish in the prisons of the world for daring to challenge the edicts of their betters. He will speak for all men who love justice and liberty, and will raise his voice aloud in their cause. He will temper the wrath of those who govern by war. He will seal forever the door through which war enters and defiles the realm of men. All this through men he will accomplish, and so restore sanity and peace of earth. Calmly and with purpose, he prepares the golden future, the inheritance of men, and gathers together the shining lights, the men and women who will fashion that future. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.